After a battle that lasted more than a decade, Nigeria finally gets a breather against PNID in a historic 11.5 billion US dollars judgment in her favor. 903.48 billion naira is the amount distributed by the three tiers of government at the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee meeting this week in Abuja. Well, it's been 2 years since the introduction of the Naira. Do you know that it is the first central bank digital currency to be issued on the African continent? Well, now you know that. And also, it's 1 year since the announcement of the Naira redesign policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria. How well has it fared? Is it going to still end the swapping of currencies, by the 31st of December this year? Well, we're going to find out that very soon, I guess. And it's been 2 days of back-to-back activities in the course of the week in the nation's capital. First, it was the Nigeria Economic Summit, the 29th in the series, and then the 2023 National Insurance Conference. We've got that all covered for you. And don't forget, our education segment Simplified is also part of the package, as well as our market updates around the country for your weekend shopping. My name is Leah. The policy returns in a moment. As we begin the business of the day, let's bring you up to speed with major happenings in the course of the week right here in Nigeria.
The federal government this Monday hailed a landmark victory after it won its bid to overturn an $11 billion damages bill for a failed gas project in a case a judge at London's High Court said exemplified the ravages of greed and corruption. Nigeria had previously been ordered to pay the sum, which had cumulatively accrued interest to Process and Industrial Development (P&ID), a British Virgin Islands company. However, Judge Robin Knowles found that the P&ID had paid bribes to a government official in connection with the gas contract signed in 2010 and had failed to disclose these when it later took Nigeria to arbitration over the collapse of the deal. President Bola Tinubu in a statement described the judgment as a blow against economic malpractice and the exploitation of Africa. The Federation Accounts Allocation Committee (FAC) has shared the sum of 903.48 billion naira September 2023 Federation account revenue to the federal government, states and local government councils. Gross statutory revenue of 1,014,953 million naira was received for the month of September 2023. It was higher than the 891.934 billion naira received in the month of August 2023 by 123.019 billion naira. In the month of September 2023, petroleum profit tax (PPT) and oil and gas royalties increased considerably, while value-added tax (VAT), import and excise duties, electronic money transfer levy (EMTL), companies' income tax (CIT), and CET levies recorded significant decreases. The balance in the excess crude account (ECA) in September 2023 was $473,754.57. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation Olumelu Adeola has said that the Senate will stick to the tradition of the January to December cycle for the presentation and implementation of the nation's annual budget. Senator Adeola made the disclosure on Wednesday while speaking with journalists shortly after the inauguration of his committee. He also revealed that the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) for the 2024 budget will be presented next week and attributed the delay in the submission to a change in the central government. Meanwhile, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Atiku Bagudu has called on revenue-generating and implementing agencies to brace up as the public expects to do better in revenue generation and ensuring efficiency in expenditure. The minister made the call at the public consultation on the ongoing federal government 2024-2026 medium-term fiscal framework and fiscal strategy paper, which held on the sidelines of the 29th edition of the Nigeria Economic Summit in Abuja.
As I told you earlier, two events shaped this economy this week, and both of them happened in Abuja. We're going to bring you the roundups, and we're starting with the 29th edition of the Nigeria Economic Summit, declared open by President Tinubu himself. The federal government has assured Nigerians it will implement the recommendations made from experts at the just concluded 29th edition of the Nigeria Economic Summit in Abuja. Speaking at the end of the summit, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning Atiku Bagudu said he will present the recommendations to the Federal Executive Council for adoption and implementation as soon as they are put together. The summit was opened by President Bola Tinubu, who assured investors and the corporate world on genuine efforts to ease the burden of accessing foreign exchange and make Nigeria a conducive environment for business.
We must protect the socio-economically vulnerable and vanquished forever the crippling multidimensional poverty affecting our land, as we move aggressively to end hunger and protect all Nigerian children.
The need for urgent strategic shifts that impact the ease and the cost of doing business within a relatively short time is a matter of existential threat to the survival of enterprises and of entrepreneurs.
Policymakers, investors, the business community, opinion shapers, civil society, the academia, and development partners converge in Abuja for 2 days to brainstorm on policy issues across sectors with a target to chart a path for meaningful, sustainable growth of the economy.
Getting a hang of the fiscal deficit, making sure that the deficit is reduced, making sure that the deficit is funded in a conventional way. And that means dealing with ways and means.
A foreign exchange market where you can predict. That's the bigger deal. That is what we need to do. If we're going to be able to create an ecosystem that will outsurvive us all and we will go to sleep on, we've got to do some basic things, some of which we are already attempting to do.
Nigeria's economy is challenged by unemployment, inflation, poverty, infrastructure deficit, and overdependence on oil as its revenue mainstay. The principal objectives of the summit include to inspire confidence in the economy, collectively design and prioritize strategies to unlock potentials that are untapped, cultivate a people and technology-centered approach to addressing emerging trends, facilitate the implementation of reforms, and facilitate discussions and actions towards attracting capital to support sustainable economic development initiatives. A policy that stood out prominently in the course of the week is insurance, and specifically that one of public buildings. But the concerns are way beyond that. Apathy, especially in the absence of a certain demography, was the focus. This year, the insurance industry converged on Abuja with in-season building collapse the focus. The 2023 National Insurance Conference is one of the initiatives of the National Insurance Commission (NICAM) to achieve the objective of incentivizing the law enforcement agencies, state governments, relevant professional bodies, and all other stakeholders. Sections 64 and 65 of the Insurance Act 2003 specify that no person shall construct any building of more than 2 floors without insuring with a registered insurer. This act for the states that a duty to insure shall arise when a building is under construction. But the collapse of buildings have assumed a worrying dimension and with no consequences. Despite having a population above 200 million, insurance penetration in Nigeria is put around 2%. Keynote speaker Tony Elumelu, Chairman Hiers Insurance Group and UBA, is seeking inclusion, especially for younger persons who constitute the largest chunk of the nation's demographics in the insurance process.
Take insurance to the young people of Nigeria. Over 70% of our young ones, of our population is under the age of 30. We cannot exclude this demography.
We want to call on Commissioner of Insurance with the contemporary collaborators, Central Bank, to see what they could do to partner with the mobile companies such that we can use the mobile phone to deploy insurance services.
Part of the call is to review the 2003 Insurance Act, and the National Assembly is already in agreement.
It is important this provision receives further legislative action that would categorize the public building in A, B, C, and D categories to ensure that adequacy of penalty is administered and the computational timeline for penalty, that's fine, should be defined, because some public buildings, 100,000 is nothing to them.
A 10-year strategic roadmap for the period 2024 to 2033 and guidance note for the insurance of government assets and liabilities was launched during the conference, just as NICOM set 7-point agenda for the transformation of the insurance sector. The industry concerns include talent gap, comparatively low public awareness, insurance affordability, lack of trust and confidence in insurers, cultural and religious bias, inadequate distribution channels, and low enforcement of insurance.
The rate of contribution of insurance to the GDP as per the most recent statistics stands at less than 1%. A lot therefore needs to be done to break the shackles that hinder the significant growth of the insurance sector.
The conference, with the theme Redefining Safety Insurance Solutions for Public Buildings and Buildings Under Construction, served as an avenue for creating the needed awareness of compulsory insurances and a platform to strengthen collaboration with relevant government and non-government agencies as well as other stakeholders. And because it is a subject matter in the financial services sector with minimal exposure and interest, I sat with the nation's insurance chief to sample his thoughts on issues raised at the conference. It's been 2 days of conversations around the safety of public buildings put together by the National Insurance Commission. And I have the pleasure of hosting the nation's Commissioner for Insurance, Mr. Olorundare Sunday Thomas. Now, perhaps we start this way. I mean, the concept of redefining safety, why now?
Over the years, we have experienced incidences of looking at safety from every other than from insurance. A situation where people see insurance as cost and not as an industry that offers benefit and value. It's always a challenge. So we have reviewed what the situation is and came to the conclusion where we must redefine and redesign our safety mechanism and bring in insurance at the center. And no matter how you look at it, every measurement that you will need to define your safety will have its foundation in insurance. And that is why we're doing this, to sensitize the public and to incentivize relevant institutions, especially the law enforcement agencies, that there's a need for us, especially when it comes to issue of public building and building under construction. We must begin to redefine what safety is and look at insurance as a means of dealing with issues that may arise from the safety needs.
Okay, so if I may ask, what is the current policy on insuring public buildings, and of course, what is the level of compliance?
Well, the policy is well captured in the Insurance Act. Whatever policy we are advocating now is ruled, it finds its root in the Insurance Act of 2003. Section 64 has to do with buildings under construction. 65 has to do with public buildings. We have seen incidences where building collapse, and those that are affected, we call on government to help out. In some cases, even the families are left, especially when they lose their breadwinners, become a challenge for the family to continue. Their standard of living will drop because the breadwinner is gone. Again, even the resources that will have been deployed in erecting such building, mark you, we are talking about buildings 2 floors and above with respect to buildings under construction. So we felt that if they are able to secure some kind of financial assistance and support for them to continue, that will ease their challenges. Again, for public buildings, of course, you know the definition of public buildings is quite wide. It has to do with hotels, hospitals, schools, just mention it. Any building that people have free exit and entry, cinema houses, all those ones are supposed to be covered by insurance because you have responsibility to the public. When you invite them to access your building, you must take responsibility for whatever happens within your building. And that is the liability of the owner. But of course, if that fails, they definitely will call on government. And that is why that provision of the law is put in place, so that whoever suffered loss as a result of getting into your building will be compensated in one form or the other.
Okay, so but what is the compliance level?
The compliance level has been very low, I would say. It's quite low because we can feel this from the number of covers that we are seeing. It's quite low. And if you put percentage on it, we talk of less than 3%.
Wow, that's quite low.
That's quite low. It's less than 3%.
In terms of collaboration with other bodies and now and agencies, where are you?
Well, I think what we have started by this conference is the fact that we believe there's a need for us to reach out to relevant institutions that have one thing or the other to do with buildings, town planners, real estate agents, surveyors, and most importantly, the state governments. Because insurance now, we are taking it beyond what you have in Abuja and Lagos. Now it has to permit every state of the federation. That is what is going to guarantee protection for all citizens. There's no state in this country that we have not seen incidences of collapsed building. There's no state that doesn't have public buildings where people have suffered in one form or the other. But of course, since there's no remedy, you just lick your wounds and go home, So, but we want that to stop. We have a responsibility to protect citizens, deploying insurance as a financial instrument to just do that.
So what is your strategy? I mean, really, what is your strategy for compliance?
Well, I think we need to know that I start from the issue of religious beliefs. Wisdom is profitable to direct. Whatever you have been able to put together today, you know that you need to protect it for the future. Beyond that, what a needless burden you want to bear when these can be handed over to those who are professionals and who have been given official license to grant you that needed protection. They are experienced in this. They have been doing this over the years, and that's we have. Beyond that, we believe that if we continue with the present national sensitization that we are doing by reaching out at all levels, and of course, the different arms of the insurance industry are involved in this matter. That's how you see everybody here. And we, as the regulators, we are also trying to do what we call a wholesale kind of sensitization. are reaching out, you see very much unlike what we have had in the past. You have representative of states. Many states are represented in this program, and that is good for us. And we are already the National Council of Housing that they'll be having a meeting sometimes. We're already asking that we will have our presence to make a presentation. Of course, also making a gesture to the Governors Forum so that we can talk at different levels and be able to carry everybody in the shape. We need everybody at this time because Nigeria, we need to protect the assets that we have, and we need to be concerned about what concerns citizens. And that is the purpose of this, and that's part of our strategy.
Okay, so I would like to take this last one. It's about still relationship with other agencies. Perhaps now I would use the language some other industries.
Yes.
Now in the oil and gas, it is statutory. You just have to insure everything, including your tankers and everything. If you go to the banks, it is the same thing. But I don't think schools, for instance, have a compliance strategy for insurance. I can give that example readily. And even in some other industries, you look around, you really see that the strategy is really not working there. What kind of engagement are you having with them?
Now, I think the last session of this conference is going to speak to some of these issues you are raising. The hotel proprietors, for example, they are invited to this conference. We are getting them to get to know why this insurance is critical to them. The proprietors of schools also invited. Somehow we couldn't get their representatives to attend, but we continue to push on that. That is why we need to carry the states on board. The states will have the primary responsibility for these institutions you are mentioning in their locality. And once they get hooked onto this culture of insurance, they'll be able to now assist in enforcing at their state level. I just spoke with the Deputy Speaker of Rivers State, who said that they are already putting a law in place to domesticate what we have in the insurance side, which is quite good for us. And that is what we are advocating, that each state, Lagos did it so many years ago. And of course, today, there's a high level of compliance in that state when compared to the other states of the Federation. Because whatever is not measured doesn't get done. And that is why there has to be legislation that will guide people as to what they can do and what are their benefits if they do those things. With respect to religious coloration, now we have different providers, if you like, providers of insurance. We have the Takafu, for example, Takafu Insurance, that we take care for those who don't think conventional will be able to deal with their matters. That also has been taken care of. To a large extent, even those in the rural areas, how do we reach out to them? We have the microinsurance, which is an inclusive part of our financial inclusive strategy. They can also get them. You don't need to travel far to get people to attend to your needs. Insurance companies are spread all over the place, and we are also encouraging more people to imbibe the culture of insurance at all levels.
Okay, so for the rural ones now, how do they identify a genuine insurance institution?
Well, that's why we will not stop but continue to sensitize the public through the media. That is why we want to talk to them in the papers, talk to them on the TV, talk to them over the radio. Then we have, of course, we are also working on language. They could begin to talk to them in the language they are familiar with. Once they hear this over and over, if they have issues, they know where to contact. And once they contact us, without wasting time, we will tell them, and they'll be able to quite define those that they need to transact business with.
Okay, Mr. Commissioner, I sincerely wish you well in this very notable endeavor.
Thank you so much. It's a journey we are starting together. We believe it will take us somewhere.
Yes, indeed, we're focused on the risk of business, and on Simplify this week, we have simplified pension for you. We take that and then a trip to the market square. For more on market rates in and around the country, be sure that you can get all the details via our sister agency, www.marketnigertv.com. We birth here to return next week, but don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on our various social media platforms. The policy returns next Friday, same time and same channel. My name is Leah Babatunde, saying have a splendid weekend and God bless Nigeria.